To World Have Your Say.
Hello, I'm Chloe Tilley. Welcome to the programme. Well, it's been described as a mood of anxiety rather than panic. The banks in Cyprus have reopened for the first time in almost 2 weeks after an EU bailout agreement was reached. Cyprus has to raise €5.8 billion in return for the €10 billion bailout. There will be tax rises, privatisations, and savers with more than €100,000 in the bank will lose some of their money in return for shares. Well, from today, people can withdraw a maximum of €300 a day to prevent a run on the bank, and there are also other stringent measures in place. Well, we're going to be live in Cyprus to see how the day has unfolded, and wherever you're listening around the world, welcome to the conversation.
I'm Ayona One from South Sudan, and this is BBC World of USA. To take part in this live debate, call country code 442031624242.
And as ever, you can add your comments at facebook.com/World Have Your Say or tweet us using the hashtag WHYS. Let's begin our conversation with Katerina, who's in Limassol, Yanis, who's a doctor in Larnaca, who emailed the BBC, and Christos, who works for the government in tourism. He's in Nicosia and also got in touch today with the BBC. Welcome all of you to World Have Your Say. Katerina, first of all, how's the day been for you? Have you been to the bank yourself?
Good evening. These days in Cyprus are a little bit hard for us, but I would like to say that Cypriots are always fighters, so we will manage to survive, I think. As a businesswoman, I own a factory, a little family business in Limassol. We make traditional fruit and vegetable preserves, the Katerina Cyprus sweets. I don't know whether you've come to Cyprus to a Greek restaurant. If you did, for sure you would have tasted our black walnuts, sweet black walnuts. This is our business, and as the only problem for us as a business was that we were short of sugar, as the containers were stopped in the Limassol port. The banks were closed, so we could not take them out. And also the end of the month payments of the workers. But because we are a small company, we can survive. And
so have you managed to pay your workers, Katerina?
This month, no, not yet. But they know, my people... we gave them some cash so they can live for a while. It's not this problem. Being on the village as well is my workers live in the villages, so they help each other. This is the nature of Cypriot people. They, especially in the villages, they help each other. That's why I think we will, as Cypriots, survive, because we have this natural, what can I say, we help each other. You see, we went through the 1974 war. We became refugees. I myself am a refugee from Katerina. We all migrated to Australia, all my family. I personally came back, but my relatives live in Melbourne, Australia. We know how to become rich, how to become poor. We went through that before. So I
Katerina,
think
it's really interesting that you say that, because since this crisis has begun over the last couple of weeks in Cyprus, so many people have talked about that spirit of people pulling together. Let's bring in Yanis, who is a doctor in Larnaca. What's your experience been today? Have you ventured out to the bank?
Well, good evening. I just wanted to comment on something the Katerina said. Okay, the Cypriot people are proud, they're strong, they're resilient. Okay, and they're determined. Okay, to bounce back from this. Okay, if only Germany would loosen their grip on the country. Okay. I feel that the problem that we're facing is a direct result of our conversion to the euro. Okay, and I believe that the epicenter of the problem is Germany, not Cyprus. I think that Cyprus is not the problem. Germany is the problem.
Why do you say that? What's Germany done?
Because people don't realize that what is happening here. Okay, we witnessed a number of countries starting with Greece, then Portugal, Northern Ireland, Spain, Cyprus, falling apart financially, and the reason is very simple. Okay, these countries, most of Europe, cannot compete economically with Germany. Germany's manufacturing, their industries are well ahead of everybody else's. Germany can produce something, much quicker and much cheaper than anybody else in Europe. The result is, Germany's a big export country, and everybody else is a big import country. So all the money basically is ending up in Germany, and in order to bail us out, basically they're enriching themselves at the expense of everybody else. This is my view.
Well, Yanis, you say that, but by the same token, Germany has basically had to bail out all those countries you've already mentioned, Greece, Portugal, Spain, Ireland. They've had to stump up the cash. And German taxpayers are probably starting to ask Angela Merkel, why do we keep having to help out these other countries?
The answer is simple, The bailout is an illusion, The bailout is an illusion because, first of all, these are not handouts. They're loans, and they come with very strict rules, with very tough measures. That's number one. Number two, Germany is benefiting handsomely from this situation, from the euro. And Germany is not interested in bailing out Cyprus. They're not interested in saving Greece. They're interested in saving themselves. What they want basically is for us to stay with the euro so they can continue to benefit from it. It's clear that they're not what they're doing. The austerity measures in Greece and the measures they're taking now with Cyprus. It is clear that they're not meant to benefit the country. Because the austerity measures in Greece, they are the net effect is they're dampening they're having a negative effect on the economy. People are unemployed. The unemployment rate is going up, and I can't see the Greek government coming out of this ever. Because the only way the Greek government can come back, repay their loans, would be if somehow the economy recovered. The economy will not recover ever.
Yanis, you make your point very forcefully. I'd be interested if people are listening in Germany, if they want to pick up the phone and come on and speak to you, Yanis. You can pick up the phone. It's country code 4420 31 62 42 42. As we speak, Charles says on the World Have Your Say Facebook page, why are Cypriots angry with the Germans and other Europeans? They're not taking money out of Cyprus. In fact, plane loads of money are being sent to Cyprus so people can get money from their banks. Let's bring in Christos. As I said, he's a government employee, works in tourism in Nicosia. And Christos, you emailed the BBC today. Just give us a flavour of what you said in that email.
Well, like I've said, I've written is that my brother is 42 years old and he's living on my parents' pension because since the explosion at the power station in Mari in 2011, he's lost his business. He's a graphic designer. And, things are quite bad ever since. And we've been going through this ordeal, not just my family, but everybody. I mean, he's 42, I'm 39. And we've really come together because of this situation, because we can't get by on what's going on with all these cuts and taxes and so on and so on. I'd say, okay, I mean, we've paid our share when it comes to cuts, but some people in the private sector, they were happy that the public sector was paying their own debt. But I kept saying in blogging that their time was coming too, and it has come. And I must say that my, predecessors have really spoken quite well. I agree with Yanis up to a certain point. We've made a mistake as well here in Cyprus. And the mistake we've made is that we've sat down and we've left our banks overgrow, and we were living off the financial sector. And I must say that, we're survivors, like the previous people said. I mean, after the invasion of 1974, we had 25% cuts in our salaries and we survived. What has happened right now is that we let go of industries such as soap, shampoos, Leather goods. We used to manufacture very good quality leather goods. And we let that go because we decided we wanted the banks to come in and take over our lives. But I must say that when those people at the Eurogroup decided how to do it to us, up to one point, I do agree what they did. The banks were far too big for this country, but they never really thought of people, actual people, everyday people who lost their assets. They're not the oligarchs. They're not the Russians.
Hello?
Now that sounds suspiciously like we might have lost Christos. Is that Yanis?
Yeah, this is Yanis, yes.
Do you want to respond to what Christos was saying, and we'll try and get his line back?
I think, I think we have to look at the more global picture, okay? And we have to ask ourselves, what is happening here? Why are these countries that have been here for thousands of years suddenly falling apart economically, faltering one after the other? There's a pattern here. And the common link is the euro. Okay, the euro. Basically, we're being asked. We're being asked to they expect. The Europeans expect one hat to fit all. Okay, and it's not possible. The euro is not for Cyprus. The euro leaves your pocket a lot faster than it comes in.
Yanis, did you support Cyprus taking on the euro when you joined? Did you back it?
I was in America at the time, okay, so I did not have a view. I was not in America. I was in America at the time.
But you'd like an exit now?
Yes. Well, they got us in a catch-22 because if we exit, okay, that's really it's our only option, but it will be a painful one because if we exit the euro, there will be a devaluation. Okay, the pound is going to be worth less than it used to be. Cyprus will very likely will not be able to borrow money on the free markets, and I believe that the banks are going to continue to have problems because they've created a credibility problem right now on the part of the consumer, their clients. I, for one, I'm not inclined to deposit money in the bank anymore. I'm more inclined to withdraw my money from the bank.
Well, Yanis, if everyone does that, then Cyprus is going to be in massive trouble. Do stay with us, Katerina, as well, because I want to introduce you to another guest. But so Miranda from Texas has got in touch at facebook.com/world have your say. Not to be too cynical, but with each new development of the EU's financial crisis, it seems more and more likely that the EU will very soon no longer be together. That certainly sounds like that's what Yanis would like. Heather joins us on the line, an American who's married to a government worker who's Cypriot, and is on the line in Larnaca. Heather, welcome to the programme.
Hi.
What's life like for you at the moment?
Oh, it's not too good. And I understand where Yanis is coming from because the problem is I do understand that, yes, there were some mistakes made here, but if you're going to give a loan to people and you're going to cut them down to their knees, and they won't be able to pay the loan back because, again, this is a loan. And the problem is when you keep having stricter and stricter austerity measures, these countries cannot pay back these loans. And then it looks like they're not bothering to pay back the loan, like they're lazy people. But they're hardworking people here, and they're just being cut to the bone. I mean, you can't understand. I mean, there are dairy farmers here who cannot feed their cows right now because they can't give out checks because people can't cash checks right now. There are rules that they can't even cash checks. You cannot cash a check. If you want to deposit a check into a bank account, the bank that the person is giving you the money from on their check has to match your bank. I mean, their government workers have been given checks right now, and they can't get their money till like next week because they're going to have to redo everything because they can't go deposit the checks unless they have the same bank as the person who wrote the check. And so there are people with no money. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, things are just going to fall apart. How do you expect this country to pay back this loan if you are cutting them really to the ground? And as an American, I do understand that, you do have to, you can't just give out money without any stipulations. I mean, because America gives out money all the time. But you can't make things so harsh that the person cannot pay back the money. I mean, things are bad here, very bad. Everywhere you go, everyone is just depressed, and the morale is just hitting the ground. And how do you do this? You know, they're going to be cutting the government wages again. They're saying about like 25%. Government workers just took a hit this past year already. Like a year ago, they took a hit with pay cuts after already having pay freezes. And everyone's like, ooh, government workers, they make so much money. But not all government workers make a lot of money. And so how are people going to be paying their bills? They're going to lose their homes. This isn't okay. And I just really don't understand how Germany expects this. And I'm just really shocked, and I feel scared, and I feel sad. You know, I moved here with my husband for my son to have a better life, a safer life. Things are not going to be safe here anymore. There are people keeping hundreds of thousands of euros in their homes.
Do you blame them?
If I can,
I know of people who are keeping this kind of money in their homes.
Heather, Katerina's trying to get in.
Okay, go ahead.
I was trying to say that, yes, I do agree with the previous girl, but...
Heather.
Yes, being in Cyprus has many years yet to become like other countries, like, let's say, America, England, Australia. We are still safe in Cyprus. We feel safe. We open our doors. We don't lock them. I mean, I don't think it's not a bad situation, and even the tourists can tell this anytime coming here how people are. They live freely. I don't think. Germany is very hard on us, and they don't realize that Cyprus is just a small, tiny island. They have to be little bit. Angela has to be a little bit more angelic to us. I mean, it's just a small country, a small island. But again, we do have many things that other countries don't have. I mean, we will never...
Katerina, respond to this point which Alexandra has posted on our Facebook page. These banks in Cyprus were already bankrupt. Without the help of the EU, the Cypriots would be worse off.
Well, without... perhaps if the government... if our president had an idea or something for this year, why not? But... since we have to support our president, because President Anastasiadis is elected. He knows what he's doing, and everybody around him, I believe. We all believe that he has to help. He has to know that, and eventually we believe that he will run us out of this crisis, out of this recession. And don't forget that we are hopeful that the gas we have, God gave us, is our heritage, is going to help us. And personally, I believe this is all what is going on. They are all coming after this petrol, this gas. This is all that everybody is running into Cyprus. Suddenly, little Cyprus became the center of attention, the center of the world, because of the petrol.
Yeah, because no one was interested in taking them down until then, till the gas came along. I agree with you.
Yanis is trying to get in.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of points here. Okay, I feel that we're not, in control of our own destiny here in Cyprus. I feel we're being controlled by outside forces, okay, and specifically Germany, okay. I agree with Katerina, okay, that we're strong and resilient, and that we can bounce back. And our president, we support him, okay. But unfortunately, I don't believe we're in control of our own destiny, because it's like if I can make an analogy, okay, I believe that Cyprus, okay, is in critical condition. Okay, what we need is an operation. Okay, to get better. And what the Europeans are offering is a Band-Aid, and they're saying, Oh, they're saying you don't need an operation, and a Band-Aid will do.
So, Yanis, what's the operation that you need?
What we need is we have to get out of the euro. I support being in the eurozone, okay, because that gives us protection. We want to be part of the European Union, but we cannot. The euro is not for us. The euro is not for us. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for Greece. It doesn't work for Spain. It doesn't work for Italy. It doesn't work for anybody else except for Germany and France. Just to give you an example, okay.
So are you saying that everybody, all those countries that you've mentioned, they're Greece, Portugal, Spain, Ireland, Cyprus, should all leave the euro?
Absolutely, because it's the only solution.
But then it would collapse.
No, it's going to be painful to be sure because there'll be devaluation. Okay, but we will become eventually we will become competitive on the export markets. Okay, right now we cannot compete. There's no industry here. Okay, the economy is frozen. It's in a state of freeze. Okay, we don't, like the previous Christos said before. We don't export anything. Why? Because Germany makes everything better and cheaper. Okay,
well, Yanis, we were talking earlier in the programme when you were criticising Germany, and I put out a plea to any Germans listening to pick up the phone and give us a call. Tony has done just that, and I want to bring him into the conversation. Welcome to World Have Your Say, Tony. What do you want to say?
Good evening. I'm not sure, perhaps because of a lot of the information is, of course, is in German, but I don't think people realize how this whole situation has been portrayed here. Here, it has been discussed as a financial problem, but much more so as a problem of virtue. We saved, we did the right thing, and everyone else is being profligate. And I'm not sure for the Germans it's being portrayed as, just one really simple example. Greece was portrayed, the people were portrayed as having retirement. I think that all the newspapers and radio kept saying they're allowed to retire at 55 or 57. No one said that this was an extra early retirement and that they could choose to go, for later.
So, Tony, that's interesting. You're saying that the way many of these countries are being portrayed in Germany is different from the realities the people in those countries would say. That music means we've got to take a quick break for the latest BBC World News, but then we'll carry on talking.
We've heard the news from the BBC. Now it's your turn.
You can post on facebook.com/worldhaveyoursay
or get in touch via Twitter at BBC_WHYS.
Welcome to World Have Your Say.
Hello, I'm Chloe Tilley. Welcome back to the programme. Well, the queues were orderly as Cypriots waited to withdraw their money from banks reopening for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. The EU bailout, releasing €10 billion, has come at a price, with a regime of strict capital controls and with officials bracing themselves for mass withdrawals. Raphael in London contacted the BBC and said the Central Bank of Cyprus and politicians in Cyprus and Brussels are responsible, but they're not punished. The innocent public are. EU laws have been broken, banking trust lost, and the economy is in ruins. And Svetlana in Kiev has got in touch saying, I own a company with offices in Cyprus and Ukraine. This morning I was notified by my bank that my current accounts have been frozen and will be subject to a haircut. This is robbery. The deal done clearly specifies only deposit accounts will be levied. Well, if you want to get in touch, here's how.
I'm Ayuna One from South Sudan, and this is BBC World of USA. To take part in this live debate, call country code 442031624242.
Still with us is Katerina in Limassol and Yanis, who's a doctor in Larnaca, both of whom got in touch with the BBC. And just before the news, we were hearing from Tony in Germany, who was making out the point that in Germany, the way the situation is portrayed is that Germans saved up, they looked after themselves, and other countries have, quite frankly, been frivolous. Tony, I did interrupt you, so do finish your point. And then I want to bring in Paul, who's also in Dortmund. But go ahead, Tony.
It's as I was saying, the whole thing has been put in the expression is always a bailout. It's never loan. It's like it's a bottomless pit. There's no talk of how the German banks have been involved, especially in Greece. There's no discussion of that, except I think sometimes in the Spiegel there have been some good articles, but everywhere else is nothing. There's absolutely nothing. There was a report that came out from the German government, I think it was last month, about inequality in Germany, and it's summarized that German inequality is one of the highest in Europe, and it's been suppressed. It hasn't come out yet. Food is cheaper here. You especially in I live in Berlin, especially here, but it's the wages here haven't risen in 10 years. They haven't changed in 10 years. But people have, since Schroeder, people have had it drilled into them that that austerity is king. Austerity is king. The German reunification was the cause of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, but Tony, let's get Yanis to respond to the points you make.
Well, I want to, a couple of things, okay. I want to remind my friend Tony from Germany that Cyprus and the remaining countries that are in trouble now, they've been here many, many years, thousands of years, okay, and they've been here much longer than Germany. And, we never faced a situation like this before, okay. And this is, I don't think the crisis is a question of work ethics, okay. I understand that the German people have a very good work ethics. Okay, but
no, I'm just saying that's the way.
Excuse me. Let me just finish for a second, and you can interject.
Okay.
We're not, we're not the drunken, partying and dance on the table kind of people that sometimes we're portrayed to be, especially the Cypriots. The Cypriots are hardworking. Okay, they know how to save. Okay, we are, we do believe in austerity. Okay, we're very frugal. Okay, so we've done everything right. Okay, and I don't know why we're in this situation, in the mess that we're in. I think I know. Okay, what the problem is. Like I said before, I think the problem is the euro, and I believe the money is.
Okay, Yanis, take a breath. Tony responds, and I know Katerina's trying to speak as well.
No, I totally agree. I was just trying to because. You're asking for people from people in Germany to call, and this is my impression of the last few years of how this has been portrayed here. I totally agree with you. The first time that this was mentioned here, it was called a debt crisis. It was not called a bank crisis. Also, the word in debt in German is Schuld. And Schuld also means guilt. Just a little aside.
Katerina, you were trying to come in as well.
Yes, Tony, listen, I don't know whether you've visited Cyprus. Like Yannis said, Cypriot people are very hard-working people. If we are left by the outsider,
I agree with you.
Alone, we can survive. We've been through how many thousands of people who, throughout the years and the ages, they invaded Cyprus. Cyprus was, fortunately or unfortunately, in the middle of Mediterranean, and they all wanted us like crazy. They wanted our.
The EU wanted.
We learned through these experiences. We learned to survive. So we plead to your Angela Merkel and the rest of your government to leave us alone and please. If they do give us this money, they give us. Of course, they will. From my own opinion, and I know little about politics. I am a hardworking woman, and I try to survive and grow a little bit my business here with my children, my family. Like me, there are many thousand people in Cyprus who do this, and they all try to survive. And we will. Don't worry, we will survive. We will find a way, and I'm sure. We hope our government, our president, the church is on our side as well, and we believe that we are all together. The people.
Katerina, I want to thank Tony for calling us, and I want to introduce you and Yanis to Paul, who's called us from Dortmund in Germany. Paul, what's the point you'd like to make?
Hi. There are several points, if I may.
Of course.
For one thing, I agree with Tony. The way this whole situation has been portrayed here in Germany was terrible. I mean, the number one media is a certain newspaper, like the type of newspaper like the Sun in England, for example. So their way of informing people isn't information as much as disinformation. Prejudice and all these things like stereotypes. Oh yeah, the Greeks must be lazy. That's why they're in so much debt. It's not true. It's and basically everyone here knows that it's not true. So that's the one point. The second point is this whole idea of giving a struggling country money and then demand from it that it cut costs. It's so insane. I mean, if I were Greek or if I lived in Cyprus, I would think that the European countries like Germany and France and everything are trying to ruin the country, because that's what it looks like. Because a country cannot get up from when they've fallen down. They cannot get up if they cannot invest in all their systems, in the infrastructure, and in the job market, and in education and everything. At first, you have to invest, then you can reap the benefits from that. You cannot cut costs and then expect the country to grow or to get back on its feet. It's impossible. So
Paul,
let
me ask you, how do you, and when you speak to family and friends about this, how do you feel as a German taxpayer that so much of your money, your hard-earned cash, is going to help out these other countries? How do you and your friends and family feel about that?
To be honest, the way I feel about it is it's money down the drain, and not because it's going to Cyprus or because it's going to Greece or Spain or Italy or anything, but the whole idea of the euro, to me, is a waste of money, because you cannot expect such different countries, economically different countries, to be in the same economic system and in the same like have one currency. It's impossible. I mean, the political unity, like the EU, is a very good thing. I mean, Europe used to be a huge battlefield. There were so many wars and everything. That will not happen anymore, because we are one union in a way. But putting this under one currency, I think, is a very, very stupid, because it cannot work. Germany was a very stable economic power. And okay, to a certain extent, we have remained that at the expense of everyone else. But at the same time, we have also, I mean, everyone here is, like Tony said, the wages haven't risen in like 10 years. Everyone has to save, has to make sure, not to spend too much and everything. And
sadly, Paul, lots of people are saying the wonders of hindsight. As many countries joined the euro, people didn't have these concerns. But obviously, this is what many people are talking about now. Let me introduce you to Patty, who joins us on the line from Paphos in Cyprus. Patty, I know that you emailed the BBC earlier on today. What do you want to say? I know you've been listening patiently to our conversation.
I have a question for Tony and Paul. If we were to turn this around the other way, and if Germans had their bank accounts tapped in the same way that the Cypriot people here have had their bank accounts tapped, would they like it?
Absolutely not. I think the idea of any government putting their hands on the private money of their private citizens is a disgrace, and it should not even be discussed. It's totally insane. It should not happen. Never. Not to anyone.
So why was this considered as part of a bailout deal then? It hasn't happened in any of the other countries that have had a bailout, only Cyprus. Why is Cyprus the one to suffer?
I have no idea. I think I'm absolutely with you on that page. Absolutely. I think it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. And everyone I know is totally incensed by that, because it just doesn't make sense.
Regardless
of
where they are.
Is there another agenda here? So am I missing something? I'm thinking perhaps Mrs. Merkel might be doing this so that she can rack up a few more votes when it comes to the German election. She wants to get in with the German electorate, and the Cyprus problem was just handy that it came along at the same time.
Or, Patty, could it simply be that Germany and the EU has already bailed out, as we've said before, Greece, Portugal, Spain, Ireland, now Cyprus? There's concerns how many more countries, how much more money is there? It's not a bottomless pit. Does a line need to be drawn in the sand where people start to feel the pain to try and prevent this happening in other countries?
I realise this, but I think what's happened is not entirely Cyprus's fault. It had to take a haircut with the Greek bondholders. It gave money to Greece for the bailout. And this added 25% extra to its debt, which made it then unsustainable. I mean, there have been mistakes made in Cyprus, OK, but I really feel this is extremely harsh by the EU on Cyprus to do this. I think it's absolutely dreadful.
Let's bring
I agree, by the way, completely.
Let me bring in Panayiotis, who we spoke to earlier, end of last week, I think it was, on this programme, a university lecturer in Cyprus. I know you've been listening. What do you make of the conversation?
OK, I think it's perhaps time for a paradigm shift in Cyprus. We've been far too reliant on our financial sector for our revenues. We've abandoned just about everything else. Cyprus traditionally used to have an agricultural base, which is defunct. I think it's an opportunity for small people with small holdings and farms to actually start producing and start becoming a bit more self-sufficient on, well, farm produce, first of all. I also think we need to reinvest in industries, for example, renewable energies, of which Cyprus has only touched the tip of the iceberg. We have 360 days a year of sunshine, which we don't exploit as we could do. Just become less reliant on the financial sector, which has become a little bit bloated, and there are people involved, as we know, who are in it just for the money. You know, if your bonus basically is on selling bonds, you're going to sell bonds. And as far as the European Union is concerned, the dream, I think, is becoming a nightmare for all the Europeans. I was reading today in The Guardian that Slovenia is the next in line, I think, for a bailout or a bail-in. And also in The Guardian, I'd read that the Russian oligarchs who'd been targeted, basically, took the money out of Cyprus months ago and are now buying up bits of New York. So, in essence, we are punishing the man at the coalface, something that the man in the office did, and the guy in the office who makes the decisions will likely go unpunished.
And people listening around the world will say this has echoes from other countries, whether you look at the UK or elsewhere. Panayiotis, thank you for joining us. Yanis, also Patty, so many other people, Tony and Paul for picking up the phone from Germany. Thank you for getting in touch. Now, for the last 10 minutes of the programme, I want to bring you part of an earlier edition of World Have Your Say. It was from Uganda, from the BBC's Science in Africa Festival in Kampala. And Ros was putting your questions to several eminent African scientists. CERN project director Tajinda Verdi was the man behind the search for Higgs boson, the world's largest physics project. Dr. Ashite Trebi-Eleni was the senior robotics engineer at NASA. Jimmy Pritchard from the International Centre for Insect Physiology, and Dr. Harriet Mayanga, Dean of the School of Medicine at Makerere University, where the festival was being held. Let's hear some of the questions that were asked.
My name is Onyut Masi. I'm a year one student. I'm doing physics, mathematics here in Makerere. My question goes to the two physical scientists. I want to know about your academic performances and most especially to the Ghanaian, to the engineer from NASA. I want to know the schools you went to.
Well, these are great questions. Let's ask all three. How did you do at school? How did you do at university? Come on.
I went to school in Kisumu Boys High School, which is just down the road. And when I started school, first year in a sense, there were 26 students, and I came 25th. My elder brother, he came first in his class, and he got a present. So I went to my father and said, well, I came 25th, so you have to give me 25 presents. And of course, it didn't work like that. So if I wanted a present, I had to work hard. But seriously, I think the education that one receives and the questions one asks, I think that's the issue. You have to keep asking questions. And I've had the good fortune of going to Kisumu Boys High School, it was a good school, and also university, and I went to university. In fact, we found out this morning that Ashite and I went to the same university, Queen Mary College in London. So we actually alumni from the same institution.
Okay, and we've only got a minute left before the news, but what about the other two? Are you the golden boys at school?
So I'll say I had a very great education, but, you know, you can talk about all the great schools that I went to, but what makes the difference is the home. And that's what I want to emphasize. Parents have to take interest in their kids' education, and that makes a big difference.
And in 10 seconds, Jimmy Pritchard, how did you perform?
I did fairly well, I'd say. But
this is a modest guy, I think.
What I'd like to say is
social media is certainly having a big impact on this hour in Africa. We're being deluged with tweets and texts and emails. One here from Mohammed in Amman who wants to ask you, do you think African students can reach the same position as yours? And we're getting a lot of questions from people wondering, is there a glass ceiling? Do you get treated differently because you're African, in particular when you're working outside of Africa?
I think when I was in Kisumu, growing up, I would never have thought that I'd be leading this experiment, the most complex experiment humankind has ever devised, and sitting here.
How does it feel saying that one out loud?
Yeah.
It must be
so the potential is there. Go for your dreams.
Hi, this is Proskovia. If you've just tuned in, let me tell you that there are hundreds of World Have Your Say listeners here in a huge tent in Kampala. We are putting out questions to some of Africa's most respected scientists.
Hello, my name is Alvin Araka. I'm an engineering student in Makerere University. I have to give a thumbs up to our panel audience this afternoon. Now, my question... Thank you for the representation you're giving to Africans. But then my question is this. I think the question of can science make Africa rich definitely is a yes. But the problem we have is that we don't cultivate a rich science culture from an elementary level. Now, I would like each one of you maybe to tell us, what if you could do something about how deep we go into science at a primary school level, what would you do about, because I think if it starts from there, it would really give us a big chance.
Well, it's a big question. Let's not ask them to give detailed answers because you could write whole books on how to change science in primary schools. But maybe one idea or one thought, if there are primary school teachers and parents who have got children at primary school in Africa, that they can bear in mind.
What I'd like to say is that science is possible. Anybody can be a scientist. We just need to change the way science is taught to make the pedagogical methods easier and simpler that young people can relate to.
So I think we talked about this a few hours ago. I think the way to teach science is very different, where you get kids to experiment and then they can relate to the theory. So there's a different way. You study in groups. We call it the 3 C's, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Instead of standing up and say, this is the equation of light, this is the behavior of light, the kids actually do the experiment. They observe it, and then they derive the theory. And we have found that in the West, it works very well, and it gets kids really excited about science.
Now here's a philosophical question from Mehebwa in Nigeria, who says, many perceive science to be something which involves high-tech labs and the latest hardware, but when you think about science, what do you think of? What is it to you?
In fact, although I'm working on this most complex of instruments, when we started the journey, we didn't actually know what instruments could do the job, some of the things we had to invent. And I remember a story where somebody from Russia produced from his handkerchief a small piece of glass, looked like glass, but it was a crystal. And that said, this could actually find the Higgs boson. And from there, we had to get 100 tons of material and took 10 years to make. And then we found a Higgs boson.
So when I think about science, I think about elegance. I think about simplicity. So you take a very complex problem and you reduce it to its most simple component. And that, to me, is the beauty of science.
I would agree with him. Actually, science is just the way you structure your thoughts about phenomena and get solutions.
On today's World Have Your Say, we're hearing from the CERN project director, Tajinder Verdi, the man behind the search for the Higgs boson, Dr. Ashati Trevieleni, quite a celebrity in Africa already, judging by the messages coming in. He's a senior robotics engineer at NASA and worked on the Phoenix Mars lander. And Jimmy Pritchard is from the International Centre for Insect Physiology. We're also joined now as well by Dr. Harriet Mayanga, Dean of the School of Medicine at Makerere. And we're grateful to all four of you for giving us your time. Those of you listening, you can get in touch with your questions, any questions you have for these eminent scientists. We've also got lots of questions coming from inside this huge tent.
I'm Charo S, a student at Makerere University. My question goes to all the scientists. How are you willing to fight the traditional forces of Africans in order to promote science in Africa?
It is said that ignorance is very expensive. The way to fight the dark forces is actually to illuminate. Let there be light. Educate people. Enable them to think. Enable them to discover new knowledge and how to apply this knowledge. That's the way to go.
And I think it's one thing that most people cannot relate to is that you want to tell them how the things they use were produced, the output of science. Your cell phone, somebody had to discover the electron. It's science brings about tools that makes your life easy, improves your lives, and that's what science does. And when people are able to do that mapping, it becomes a lot easier.
The traditional forces should be harnessed and cultivated and studied. One needs to study the understanding of the human mind and the issues that affect the traditional forces. One needs to understand that backcloth was a traditional force, and we should have continued cultivating that.
Thank you very much indeed for the question. Masal is listening to us live on the BBC in Papua New Guinea and says, can the BBC do this sometime in the Pacific in the near future? Masal, I can't make any promises, but I'll speak to the bosses back at base and we'll see what we can rig up. Esther in Uganda tweets a question I think a few people are curious about. She says, Ros, I want to know from these scientists if science can make Africa rich, but also if it's made them rich themselves. Now, I'm not expecting to see your pay slip, but I'd be interested to know what impact scientific success has had on your way of life.
I think when people talk about rich, are you talking in terms of wealth? I think science has enriched me in terms of knowledge, and it's made me a lot happier.
Science has enriched me in making me enjoy my life and my career. Every Monday morning I'm eager to go to work because science makes life more interesting.
And Tajinder, come on, be honest with us. You are now a man with one of the most incredible scientific achievements of the last 100 years on your CV. What impact has that had?
I think one of the things, it's a phrase from Sir Isaac Newton, if I reproduce it, the greatest honour and distinction, the greatest earthly honour and distinction is that associated with making advances in science.
And that was Tajinder Verdi with Ros at the BBC's Science in Africa Festival in Kampala. Michael in Kenya has posted on Facebook, do you agree with me when I say that the brain drain has been a major hindrance to African science? I was at Makerere University in 2006 and most of those students are now in the US. Etabong in Nigeria says Africa is so far behind in every way. The problem is poor leadership. If we have good leaders that make good policies, that promote education and encourage research, then discovery and innovation will flourish in Africa. And Kake on Facebook says science education in Africa is terrible. The last time I asked 10 18-year-olds how many planets are in the universe, they all said 9. If we're to move forward, we need to update the syllabus and ensure that teachers are up to the task. If you want to carry on talking about this, facebook.com/World Have Your Say. You can join me tomorrow on our television programme on BBC World News at 15 hours GMT. If not, I will speak to you next week. Thank you ever so much for listening.
Schnell am Computer.